Tired of rolling into work, staring at your shoes, never knowing what to say, uninformed of the current news? Well, let's make your coworkers the ones that are staring at their shoes. Welcome to Tuesday, September 10th edition of the Dumpster Fire, where we burn you with the latest trash that is American news. Today we got the latest on the Israel conflict, James Earl Jones passing, but let's start by riling up some Never Trumps with new polls. Ever since Biden ducked out and Kamala's been in, it's been vibes, it's been joy, and it's been Kamala in the lead. This is the first time since this occurred that we're actually seeing Trump take over Kamala now. Newest report, polls by New York Times show that Trump is leading Harris 48% to 47%. So again, they're very close within the margin of error, but this is a far cry to what it was before. Let's dig further into the polls. 28% of the voters say they needed to learn more about Harris compared to only 9% for Trump. And if you think about this, who doesn't know about Trump? Between his years as a reality star, a businessman, some of the pretty effed up stuff that he's done way in the past, trying to battle the NFL, and then his presidency. Some great, some not great. But I think we know who Trump is. So only 9% say they needed to learn more about Trump. As we've been saying on this program, as many others have been saying, we don't know enough about Kamala. We've seen her talk in the 2020 debate. We've seen her as a prosecutor, but as a presidential candidate, she's been very tight-lipped about her policy, which is kind of strange. If you want to be a presidential candidate, your policy should be front and center, not something that you run away from. So anyway, the polls are showing exactly that. Almost a third of voters say that they need to know more about Harris. Now listen to this. This next piece is very interesting. Nearly 50% of voters say that Harris is too liberal or progressive. That's huge. Almost half the voters, too liberal or progressive. I think what we're going to actually see Kamala do in the debate, and I think what we're going to see her try to do between now and then the presidency, now in the election, is become more moderate. And I feel like that's what we've seen. And if you watch the Dana Bash interview, what Kamala did is she said that her values have not changed, even if her policies have changed. So I feel like this is kind of a mask. This is a way for her to come more to the center while still saying that she hasn't completely flip-flopped. Whether you agree with that or not, that's up to you. But I think that's how she's getting closer. I feel like American culture right now is coming more to the center, at least for the time being. Okay, this next piece, think back to what Harris has been saying the past few weeks. She represents change, a mantra that kept going on. We don't want to go back. We don't want to go back to Trump. Even though Harris has been in office the last 4 years. That said, kept pushing, we don't want to go back. We want to be the change. Well, looking at the polls, 40% of voters say that Harris represents change. 40. 61% say Trump represents change. So we're seeing that even with the mantra, even with what they're pushing forward, it's really the Trump camp that voters feel is change. In addition to that, a majority of voters view Trump unfavorably, even if they see him as this change candidate. So take that for what it is. Also, nearly half of voters view Harris as responsible for immigration issues at the border. I know that a lot of news programs tried to flip the whole border czar. If you want the Open Views take on that, Joe Biden never said that Harris was the border czar. He did say that he wanted her to look at where I believe it was immigration was coming from Central America, but he didn't say that she was the border czar. Now, having said that, many news organizations, including CNN, including MSNBC, called her the border czar. So, while from a formal perspective, maybe not a factual piece, Shame on the news organizations for coming out and trying to pretend like they never said that. I've even seen reports of some of them actually pulling that from their articles, which a term I've used a lot lately, absolutely shameful. So coming up, we got the debate tomorrow night. Check in here. I'm going to have a video locked and loaded. I'm getting it all prepared. So soon after the debate is over, should be able to upload that bad boy with analysis, with thoughts. But in preparation for that, looking at what Harris has done so far, if you think back to maybe her initial main stage debate, her debating Joe Biden for the 2020 election, and a very memorable moment came where she directly attacked Biden over his stance on school busing. She got a lot of attention for that. It boosted her standings in the race. Her polls surged. But in later debates, she struggled and was considered less effective. So start off hot out the gate. But a lot of her critique comes in that she's sharp from a prosecutorial style, which again, being the Attorney General for California, makes sense. But she's criticized for coming off as rehearsed and avoiding direct answers. So watch for that if you tune in to the debate live. Watch for her to kind of sidestep all of that. Changing gears a little bit to a much sadder story. James Earl Jones has passed away. Phenomenal actor, over 200 films. Assuming everyone here knows, but the voice of Darth Vader, Lion King, also apparently the voice of CNN. Gross. That's pretty cringe, but again, no big deal. But a little bit of history. He was born in 1931 in Mississippi. Very sad. His father left before he was born. And then James Earl Jones' family at a young age moved, and it left him all but basically moot. But didn't want to talk, kind of had a little bit of a disability there until he met a high school poetry teacher who really helped him overcome his disability. Funny to think what would happen if we didn't have James Earl Jones. So rest in peace. Late breaking news on the Israel conflict. September 9th, Israel targeted a humanitarian zone in Khan Yunis, Gaza, where displaced civilians had sought shelter. Initial glance, that sounds pretty terrible. That's a little disturbing. But looking a little deeper, the Israel Defense Force, IDF, stated that the strikes were aimed to hit Hamas terrorists who were using a command center and command and control center embedded within a humanitarian area. So I don't know if right, wrong, or different. Their claim, Israel's claim, is that Hamas is hiding behind this humanitarian effort. Although Israel emphasized that precautions were taken to minimize civilian harm, such as the use of precise munitions, aerial surveillance. That said, many civilians are feared to have been killed or wounded. Gaza's civil defense teams have been working to recover victims, with videos showing rescues workers digging through debris in the aftermath. The exact number of casualties is unclear at this point, but reports suggest significant damage and loss of life. Really feel tragic, really feel bad for all those involved. I don't know what the right thing is, but hopefully something can be figured out at some point just to minimize the loss of life. All right, that said, reminder again, tomorrow night we have the presidential debate. So come back to this channel for that. Subscribe, like the video, comment below on what you thought this video. If you hated it, tell me. I want to know if you hated it. Tell me why you hated it. If you think Trump's a piece of crap, put that in the comments. If you think Trump's going to be the next greatest president, throw that in the comments. I want to know what you got